feature that is already activated on your wrist is Siri's Lift to Speak. So if you ever want to set a reminder or know how to spell something like nifty, then all you do is lift your wrist and say, how do you spell nifty?
N-I-F-T-Y.
Another cool thing is, did you know you can silence incoming calls from your watch just by taking the palm of your hand and placing it on your watch screen? Instantly, your watch will stop ringing, but it doesn't decline the calls, it simply mutes it. And this is great for meetings, movies, and other scenarios, which is super nifty. You also have the option to change it from a custom emoji to ones that Apple have already created, like the octopus or giraffe. You can also change the background color, but as mentioned, once you're done, your Memoji watch face is super animated, and it is so funny to see the different things that they do. Now, this has been around for a while, but in case you didn't know, you can actually control your phone's camera using your watch. I absolutely love this feature, and it's turning your Apple Watch into a bedside alarm clock. Now, something I really love about the Series 6 is it has faster charging. So with the Series 5, it takes up to 2.5 hours to fully charge. But with the Series 6, it only takes up to 1.5 hours to be fully charged, which of course is a huge improvement and saves on a lot of time. Definitely an amazing feature with the Series 6 is you can now measure your blood oxygen levels on your wrist in a couple of seconds. If you also tap on your watch face, it'll change the watch paper every single time, or you can just rotate your wrist like this. I really hope you guys love these, and don't forget to check out the link in my description.
In my 1 month or so with it, the Galaxy Watch 3 has definitely lived up to the hype. Samsung has placed the Watch 3 somewhere in between the original Galaxy Watch from 2018 and the Galaxy Watch Active 2, at least in terms of the feature sets. Compared to its predecessor, the Watch 3 is marginally more compact and lighter as well. Everything is, and therefore feels, premium as we've come to expect. It has a stainless steel frame, while the straps are made from premium leather material. There's also a more expensive Watch 3 with a titanium frame. Available in either 41 or 45mm variant with Wi-Fi only or LTE connection, you have the choice on whether you want compact or a large screen smartwatch. This year's signature color, Mystic Bronze, is confined within the smaller 41mm option, which is the one I have with me. There's a back and configurable home button on the right frame. A little below, you will see the singular microphone, whereas the big heart rate sensor sits comfortably at the bottom of the watch. Moving to the left, it has a speaker grill for playing music, making calls, and whatnot. As usual, the straps conform to the universal sizes. It is also 580M IP68 rated and is MIL standard A10G compliant. And the latter has already proven its worth. I vividly remember a couple of instances where the Galaxy Watch 3 has bumped into a concrete surface pretty hard. The display itself is excellent though. It is bright, it is sharp, has excellent colors, contrast, and supports always-on display too. Even in the sunniest of days, I did not encounter any trouble regarding visibility. You can choose between 10 levels of brightness, and there's also the auto brightness option. We're keeping it real simple this time around by standardizing 1GB of RAM for all variants of the Galaxy Watch 3. Similarly, the internal storage has been bumped to 8GB as well. When it comes to fitness tracking, the Galaxy Watch 3 is loaded with them. 40 workouts to be exact. The Galaxy Watch 3 is also capable of measuring your heart rate, stress level, and even period tracking, which is really handy feature for women's health. With this, the comparatively tiny battery takes about 2 hours to fully charge. To conclude, the Galaxy Watch 3 is an excellent smartwatch that brings the beloved rotating bezel.
This watch has a lot to offer. There's a lot of really exciting things I'm going to cover in this video because it's essentially everything short of a doctor's visit, just located on your wrist. You have skin temperature, you have heart monitoring, you have an ECG on there, you have stress monitoring, and they do all of these things slightly different and more advanced than almost every other watch I've ever tried. So like I said, there's a lot to talk about with the Fitbit Sense here. I want to start off with a physical tour of this just to kind of get on the same page so you guys know what you're actually dealing with here. So starting off on the front, we have a 1.6-inch AMOLED screen. The 1.6 inches is diagonal, so it's a pretty large display there. It also gets very, very bright, so it's easy to see in broad daylight, has really vibrant colors, and I think the display overall looks really nice. It's kind of square, but it has very rounded corners, so it makes a nice hybrid between the very boxy look of the Apple Watch and some of the more rounder watches we're seeing from Wear OS, for example. So this watch overall is really impressive, but there are a few drawbacks, of course, you should be aware of. The first one, like I said, is there's no Spotify offline right now. You can use Spotify, you can control Spotify remotely, but you can't go offline with just the watch and run and expect to listen to Spotify. There also are some other features that are not quite rolled out yet. So one of them is the ECG, in the United States at least. A second one is actually the ability to answer phone calls remotely from your watch, so using the microphone and speaker on your watch. That feature's not out yet, but the good news is all three of those could just be software updates.
Now, the Active 2 had a lot going for it when it first came out. We think it still does, especially with the new Galaxy Watch 3 costing significantly more. So if you don't care about having the latest and greatest, let's take a look at what makes the Active 2 worth considering. The design is quite gorgeous with its round display. It's slim and sleek and extremely lightweight. The fit and finish is definitely premium. It comes in a variety of colors, as well as a Bluetooth-only model and a stainless steel LTE variant. What we really liked were the aesthetics here. The Galaxy Watch Active 2 looks appropriate for the gym as well as being sophisticated for nights out on the town. The OLED screen, with its optional always-on display, is large, crisp, and bright enough for easy viewing even outdoors. You have a great selection of watch faces. Plus, there's some great third-party designs available, with plenty of customization options. One of the cooler design features is a touch-sensitive rotary controller. It's similar to the spinning bezels found on previous Samsung smartwatches. You can just slide your finger around the edge to scroll through lists and screens. It's a great practical alternative versus having to swipe through various screens. Plus, you can still interact with the usual swipes and taps, along with the physical back and app buttons. We found the watch's performance solid. There's a great combination of hardware and software. The response is fast and lag-free. It doesn't have the repertoire of apps like its Apple counterpart, but you get some of the big names like Twitter and Spotify. It also features Samsung Pay for contactless payments, but by not having support for both Google Pay and Apple Pay, it does miss out on big added convenience. Where the Active 2 shines is its health and fitness offerings. It has advanced sensors to track up to 39 activities to help you achieve your goals. The battery is quite amazing. Although it's rated for more than 5 days, the mileage depends on how you choose to use your watch. We still got an impressive 2.5 days worth. It has wireless charging. Plus, you can even use PowerShare to charge it from your compatible Samsung phone. So, what's the verdict? Well, the Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2 holds its own against pure fitness trackers. It has FDA-cleared health features while offering impressive smartwatch functions and has an impressive battery.
So this watch has 32 gigabytes of storage on board, which is great for lots of apps, for lots of saving music on here, podcasts, photos, whatever you want to do. You're really not limited by the storage that you might be on some other competitive watches. So now this watch has Bluetooth to connect to earbuds or to your phone. It also has Wi-Fi, it has GPS for tracking workouts, it has NFC for making payments with Apple Pay, and you could get the LTE version. This one right here is just the GPS version, so no LTE on this one, which means that I can still field phone calls and text messages and stuff like that as long as I'm connected to my phone by Bluetooth. And then really the last thing to note about this physically is the water resistance is good for up to 50 meters, so if you're going surfing or swimming or whatever you're doing, this watch should have absolutely no problem. So a few other kind of minor drawbacks with this watch. One of them is that it doesn't have an always-on display. The Apple Watch 6 does, this one does not. And being that you have sleep analytics on here, you might want to be tracking your sleep, which means at some point in the day, probably every day, you'll have to find 60 to 90 minutes to charge this back up because the battery life, from my experience, only lasts about a day and a half. So reasonable, but definitely not that impressive.
Starting off with what you get in the box, and Fitbit have changed the packaging quite a bit compared to previous Fitbit Versa models, but nonetheless it's still an amazing unboxing experience. And in the box you first up get the charging cable, then you also get some straps with different sizes, of course the beautiful Versa 3 watch itself, a little product information booklet all packaged in this box with a Fitbit Versa sleeve on the outside. It really is a nice unboxing experience. Now at first glance it does look quite similar to the Versa 2 model, but they did actually change quite a couple of things, and I must admit it has a very premium look and feel. One of the main things you'll notice with the Versa 3 is how the display now has a curved edge and not that squared off finish. It also has Gorilla Glass 3 on the front and comes in a couple of other colors. They also made some much needed improvements on the back with the charging connection, which I'll show you a little bit later, and it does still have a button on the left hand side of the watch, except now it is a haptic button. So when you push it you'll just feel a slight vibration, and the reason for this haptic button is to improve the watch's water resistance. Now onto the display, and not only is the screen size slightly bigger, but the resolution is also higher. Within the display settings there are so many things you can change, like the brightness of the screen, your watch timeout, and if always on display is something you enjoy, you can just toggle that on, and as you may know, this saves hugely on the battery life. It is still an AMOLED display, which again saves on the battery, but just helps make those colors pop and the screen so much more vivid. It is of course also still a touchscreen, and honestly no complaints there when it comes to responsiveness, and at the end of the day I am super impressed with the display, guys. No matter what your lighting conditions, I guarantee you'll be able to see the display even in full-blown sunlight. Then chatting about some standard features, and you can receive a bunch of notifications. Just be sure to check what notifications you can receive, whether you're on iPhone or Android, onto the size of this watch, and the Versa 3 is 1.59 inches wide by 1.59 inches long. Here's what it looks like alongside the previous Versa 2 model as well as the Apple Watch Series 5. It is so similar in size to the Versa 2, but as mentioned, the display is bigger. It is also much the same when it comes to the thickness of the watch, and at the end of the day sits super comfortably on the wrist. The charging for the Versa 3 has also been dramatically changed, and for the better. So this is what the charger now looks like, and all you do is take your watch, place it on top, and it magnetically snaps into place. Your watch will start charging instantly, and to remove it you just snap it off.
Now, with its own built-in LTE radio, the Apple Watch Series 3, starting at $399, lets you not only receive messages but respond to them, either by scribbling or using your voice. So, to put the Apple Watch through its paces, I spent a Saturday in the park with it, sans iPhone. I ran 3 miles while listening to music on my AirPods. I made a few phone calls, one via my AirPods and one on the watch itself. The call recipient said the difference in quality was negligible and both sounded great. I dictated some texts and scribbled others. I asked Siri for the scores on a few college football games. I got breaking news alerts from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. After an hour and a half of pretty heavy use, I returned home and was reacquainted with my iPhone. For the most part, I didn't miss it. My watch battery was at about 75%. You can't leave your iPhone behind all day. While the Apple Watch Series 3 boasts about 18 hours of battery life, that only accounts for about an hour of LTE use. If you stream music and use GPS without your phone nearby, you'll get closer to 4 hours of uptime. It's for this reason that the Apple Watch Series 3 is still dependent on an iPhone. You can't set up an Apple Watch or back it up without an iPhone, and you certainly can't pair it or sync it to other devices like an iPad, an iPod Touch, or a Mac. The dirty little secret of the Apple Watch since the first hardware launched was that the apps themselves were, to put it bluntly, almost worthless. Until now, the Apple Watch has worked best when used passively. The screen is too small, the hardware has been too slow, and you've always had a bigger, more capable, and more powerful device on you, right in your pocket. Why would you spend your time texting from your watch when you could just pull out your iPhone? Getting notifications on your wrist and fitness tracking were the strengths of the platform, and features like Apple Pay and Siri were icing on the cake, making it a worthwhile investment. But it was about looking at your wrist, not interacting with it. Series 3 bringing LTE into the mix changes things. I'm not suggesting that some sort of Apple Watch app renaissance is on the horizon, but I suspect that apps, especially non-fitness ones, will find some utility and use in our brave new iPhone-free world. The addition of LTE has nudged the Apple Watch experience from passive to a slightly more active one, and that's a good thing. With the Apple Watch Series 3 with cellular, Apple Watch continues to find its footing.
So for Garmin, the Vivoactive watch has always been kind of a value product. Yes, it's expensive. You're going to spend $300 to $350 depending on the sales that are going on for this watch. But you're going to get a watch that performs and does a lot of the same things that the watches that are $600 to $1,000 cost from Garmin. So for example, in terms of hardware, you're going to get on the Vivoactive 4 the same GPS chipset and optical heart rate sensor. Another great thing about this watch is that it is compatible with external sensors, such as external heart rate chest straps, cadence sensors, all different kinds of things that can pair with this watch that you use while you're running, while you're hiking, while you're doing whatever exercise you're doing. You can pair those additional accessories with the watch to grab additional metrics while you're doing that exercise.
The watch now comes in two different sizes, a 40mm version and a 45mm version. They both cost the same, so you don't save any money by going with the smaller version. Garmin claims you'll get 8 days worth of battery life, and in our testing we were able to get about 6 or 7 days worth of battery life, even using the watch every day for exercise. The watch charges pretty easily by just plugging in the proprietary end to the back of the device, and then the other end is a standard USB that you can plug into your phone charger or computer. Now, in addition to tracking your active exercise, this is going to have some other features that are tracking kind of more passive metrics, such as your body battery, which is a proprietary Garmin feature that lets you know how much energy you will likely have for an upcoming exercise. So their algorithm on the body battery feature is, taking into account things like how much exercise you've done previously in the hours before or days before. It's taking a look at how much sleep you've had. It's taking a look at your heart rate variability, things like that. Then you'll also have the pulse ox sensor, which is basically taking an oxygen level reading from your blood. And this might be helpful to someone who has sleep apnea and has, is struggling to breathe while they're asleep. And then additionally, you're going to have stress tracking, which is Garmin's proprietary version of heart rate variability, basically taking a look at your heart rate and seeing if it's indicative of physiological or even emotional stress.
This is the Amazfit BIP, a fitness tracker that costs about $80, and I've been using it every single day for the past 2 months. I've been using this tracker for 2 months and I charged it once, even though I use the GPS and heart rate monitoring features quite a lot. The official numbers state that the band should last you up to 45 days, and I can assert this is true. The reflective color touchscreen is always on, and this is my favorite feature of this watch. The brighter the day is, the better you can see the display. Also, there is a nice backlight so you can see the display at night. Lift to wake feature works fine. The overall build of the tracker is just great, and the device held up pretty well over the time. However, the rubber band has worn off quite a bit. A good thing is that you can buy a new strap for the cheap, and I will leave a few suggestions in the video description down below. What I like is that the BIP is very light and comfortable to wear. I believe that the heart rate sensor is accurate, but keep in mind this is not a medical grade device. So is the Amazfit BIP worth the price of about $80? Absolutely yes. I will continue using it every single day as it has never let me down and it's comfortable to wear. Therefore, I can easily recommend the Amazfit BIP to anyone after using this tracker for more than 2 months. Which activity tracker do you use? Drop me a comment down below. Also drop me a comment down below if you have any questions about the Amazfit BIP. Please like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It was Linus. Thank you for watching.
So after using the Fossil Gen 5 smartwatch for almost 2 months, there are a few things I have come to like and a few things that they could still improve. I ended up getting the Carolite HR with the black silicone band, which I think looks stunning. To me, this looks way better than the Fossil Sport with its dual color, plus scratches are not as noticeable on the black one. The Fossil Gen 5 smartwatch is lightweight, but coming from the Fossil Sport, the Gen 5 is slightly heavier and slightly thicker, but I don't mind it since you're getting quite the improvements. It is using the same 22mm silicone band as the Fossil Sport, which I'm really happy about because it's a really comfortable watch strap. The only part that sucks is that you can't buy it with the stainless steel band in case you want something that looks more elegant. You will have to buy the Carolite HR Smoke to get it. You can always just buy it separately, but it would be nice if they let you choose. I ended up buying a black steel strap on Amazon that suits this black model better. but I always find myself going back to the silicone band strap because it's more comfortable, but damn does it look good with the metal band. So the watch is comfortable to take to the gym, and the heart rate monitor does a good job at measuring my heart rate consistently, and it's recommended to have the watch adjusted tightly below the wrist bone for a more accurate reading. On the Gen 5 is the size of the display. With the Gen 5 you get a 1.3 inch AMOLED display, just 0.1 larger than the 1.2 inch display on the Sport. But you still get the same thick side bezels, which is kind of a bummer. I was hoping they will at least make it smaller. One of the big features of the watch is the speaker. You can now load up Pandora on your watch and listen to some music straight from your watch without the need of your phone. The speaker is adequate for when you're home without much noise going around you. The sound is decently good, but won't be loud enough when there's a room full of people talking. You can also have sound on your alarms that you set on your watch now, as opposed to only having it vibrate. Now moving on to the battery life, the Fossil Gen 5 has a better battery life than the Fossil Sport with the same features turned on, and I'm not sure of the size of the battery. So the Fossil Gen 5 comes with a couple of battery modes, and Fossil will be bringing the extended battery mode to older Fossil smartwatches, but I'm not sure when. So with the daily mode, it will have all these features turned on, but it will have the tilt to wake off and the Google Assistant hot word detection turned off, which helps the battery last a little longer. I can get up to 2 days with this mode. Now turning the tilt to wake on and the detection for Google Assistant brings me down to 1 day and a half. Turning off the tilt to wake guarantees you a better battery life, and if you want even more out of it, just turn off the touch to wake. Now going on to the extended mode, it will turn off most of the features and only leave the button to wake, notifications and vibration on. With this I managed to get 3 days of usage, and this is great if you're ever out on a trip and forget your charger. Now if you want to go for a week without charging it, you have the option to set it to time only, where it will only tell you the time when you push the button to wake it. It automatically goes onto this mode when your watch reaches low battery. I personally keep my watch on custom with all the features enabled, and when I want a little bit more battery, I just disable tilt to wake and Google Assistant detection, or just set it to daily. So the battery life will all depend on how often you interact with your watch.